A Trump supporter that lost her job directly because of Donald Trump's policies now says she regrets her vote and she is going public telling anybody that will listen. Now, this is a federal worker that lost her job directly because of Doge cuts. Take a listen to what she has to say now.
You voted for Donald Trump.
I did.
Do you regret that vote?
Yes, I do. To cut the knees out of the working class Americans just doesn't make sense to me. I expected more from President Donald Trump.
Yeah, she expected more. And what she really means there is, I didn't expect him to come after me. He was only supposed to go after other people. We were supposed to own the libs. We were supposed to go after the people that didn't like Trump, not your supporters. And now she is in the find out phase, that she too is being affected. But the story actually gets much worse for her, unfortunately, as since coming out and going public with this, her house has been vandalized. She has been receiving different kind of threats. It's really turned her world upside down, from not only losing her job and getting in the find out phase, but now losing her friends because she's going against Trump.
What was it like for you when you got the news that you were being let go?
It was really hard. I was on the phone with my best friend, Kaylee, at the time, and we were just discussing her life and how things were going. And I looked at my phone and I had gotten a text from our union rep, and he told me that I was going to be fired the next day. And I told her, I have to go. I'm getting fired tomorrow. And my heart just sank and I had a huge pit in my stomach, and nobody wants to hear that news. You know, it's not something that I'd wish on anyone, and it's something really hard to go through. It's hard from my perspective to approach the current administration with hope. You know, I've been dealing with infertility now for about a year. I've had multiple surgeries in my life. So, you know, going into the voting booth, the main thing on my mind was the same thing I'd been thinking about for the past 11 months. And it was, you know, I want to be a mom. And women who have gone through that experience, that heartbreaking feeling of wanting something that you might never have, they understand how much of your time is taken up with those thoughts and how overwhelming and lonely it can feel. So as someone who is more of a swing voter, you know, sometimes that's what it comes down to, is those single issues.
Riley, do you now regret the way you voted for Trump?
I do feel regret, and I've had a lot of tumultuous thoughts about that day in the election booth. You know, when you're voting on something that affects you so personally, you know, it's really easy to get tunnel vision, especially in a voting booth when you're staring at, you have two options, right? I mean, it's not like you're given an endless amount of options to achieve your goals. And so afterwards, when I thought maybe this is my chance, you know, I also had to come to terms with the fact that I was likely going to be a part of, you know, taking chances away from other groups of people, and that's never sat well with me.
There is a growing conversation about some voters who support Donald Trump are now facing job loss and financial problem. Many of them didn't expect this change affect them personally. Now that it has people asking tougher question, what happened when the policy you support start to impact your own life? So before we continue, I want to give credit to original creators of TikTok clips used in this video. All clips belong to the respective creator and are used here for commentary, news report, and education purpose only.
So a Trump supporter now says she regrets voting for Donald Trump after she got fired from the federal government due to Donald Trump's massive government purges. Here she is on CNN. Let's give this a watch.
And I made a decision that, looking back, I'm not proud of, but it's the reality of my situation now.
Riley, do you now regret the way you voted for Trump?
I do feel regret, and I've had a lot of tumultuous thoughts about that day in the election booth. You know, when you're voting on something that affects you so personally, it's really easy to get tunnel vision, especially in a voting booth when you're staring at, you have two options, right? I mean, it's not like you're given an endless amount of options.
So I'm not out here celebrating the fact that someone lost their job, but she did go into a voting booth and was warned that Donald Trump would purge the federal government of several workers, and she still chose to vote for Donald Trump, and then she got fired. That's, again, what we call FAFO.
Oh no! Another Trump cultist just got screwed over by his orange God King. I just came across a tweet posted by a Trump cultist, and he is just whining and freaking out and panicked because he and his wife just found out that Donald Trump screwed them over. Let me read what he wrote. All caps. Attention! Please help! President Trump and Ted Cruz. My wife is a nurse and was recently hired by the VA. Our home is packed up. We have a new home. We spent thousands to move our family from Fort Worth to Waco. Following Trump's hiring freeze executive order, the VA rescinded her job offer. Oh, no. My wife is in tears and inconsolable, and my family is devastated. It has been my wife's dream to work with needy disabled veterans. I'm a disabled vet. Now our home is lost, with no clear path of what to do. Her job was to start in 2 weeks. We are all huge Trump supporters, and I know this was an unintended consequence. I'm sure veterans' medical care professionals were not the target of this executive order. Please help get this message to the White House so that President Trump can fix this error. Veterans need not be affected because of out-of-control government spending elsewhere. Please help retweet this so Donald Trump is made aware. We need your help. Aw, that's so sad.
If you could say anything to President Trump now, what would you say?
I expected better from you. I really did. I expected that you would do what was right and cut waste and fraud and all of those things that you promised us before we elected you in office, but you're not doing that. You're creating a disaster, and I don't know what America is going to look like if this continues.
Did you ever think that your job would be impacted in a Trump administration?
No, absolutely not.
Jennifer Piggott was abruptly fired from her job at the Treasury Department's Bureau of Fiscal Service here in Parkersburg, West Virginia, along with 124 other probationary employees. She voted for Donald Trump and thought her government job would be safe.
But to cut the knees out of the working class Americans just doesn't make sense to me. You know, it's what's the checking account look like, babe? We went through our list of items on our budget and said, what can we get rid of? And we've gotten rid of all of those things, including cable. I had my last review on the 31st of January, and I had the highest rating that you can get on a review, less than 21 days before I was terminated for my performance.
On top of losing her job, Jennifer is facing backlash from both Democrats and Republicans for speaking out. She's received death threats and more.
Our home's been egged. You know, they've hacked my Instagram and posted horrible things about my deceased mother.
This isn't what I voted for. I voted for criminals to get out, not just every person that actually wants to work and actually do their jobs and also help build a community in these parts.
So if you haven't heard by now, Homeland Security raided all of the Zips locations in the Valley, and it's people like the one in the video who apparently just started working at one of the locations as a waiter and a bartender that makes you really think. Because he said, this is not what I voted for. Now, of course it's not what he voted for because now he's being affected by it. He may no longer have a job. He did vote, however, for what President Trump was preaching all along the campaign trail, that he'd enact the largest mass deportations in the history of the United States. But what a coincidence that when a reporter or a member of the camera crew for ABC 15 decides to interview that guy. He somehow has decided to have compassion. Give me a break. It's not compassion. He's trying to garner empathy that he may be out of a job, but he got exactly what he voted for. Funny how it's always the little guy voting in the interest of the super rich.
Currently have 3 months worth of inventory sitting at my factory that I cannot bring to the US. I have maybe 2 months worth left in my warehouse in Minnesota, and when that's gone, I have no more revenue. I cannot pay my employees, I cannot pay my bills, I cannot pay the loans which I have leveraged my house against, so we could lose our house. I do not have the $230,000 that were just immediately dropped in front of me to get my products into the US. So I am asking, begging for support from both sides of both parties to support our small businesses and get rid of these tariffs on US-owned small businesses. It doesn't just affect me. When I go out of business, it affects all of those contractors that I pay to help me with my business, all those American-owned businesses, my trucking company that brings me my container, the bookkeepers and accountants and marketing teams that work with me. They now don't get to have the revenue they're getting from me, and I'm just one business that's at risk of going out of business. There are thousands of us. So this is hurting more than just people importing from China.
I think that one of the things that drives me the most crazy about this is that we have big companies like Apple who have a connection in the White House. They know who to call. They have the wherewithal to give $1 million to President Trump's inauguration ceremony. They get seated right up there on the dais on Inauguration Day when the people standing with us today have no capacity to accomplish that. And what happens? Apple gets a carve out and these guys are left holding the bag. And that is wrong, and we cannot put up with it.
At the end of the day, losing job is serious for anyone, no matter who they voted for. It's okay to talk about what the consequence, but also important to keep some understanding. Maybe it's a moment to push people to look deeper, stay informed, and think carefully about future choice. What do you think about this? Drop a certain comment below. If you're new, please can consider subscribing, like, share. Don't forget to leave a comment. And if you're returning subscriber, thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it. See you in the next episode.